Now we're going to look at custom master pages. And typically, the way you'll go about building a custom master page is, if you don't really have a lot of changes to make, you'll probably just want to use the Seattle.master or the Oslo.master. But if there's a lot of changes that you're going to be making, you're going to want to use the starter master page. And the one I've used in this course is kind of a popular one that's been around for a long time now. It's just the one at startermasterpages.coplex.com. It's developed by Randy Driscoll, who's well known as a branding expert in SharePoint. And another way you could do it is you could take an existing master page and make a copy of it in SharePoint Designer and then work on it in SharePoint Designer if you want the WYSIWYG experience. One thing that you need to do when you're building custom master pages is that you have to make any unnecessary placeholders, like any placeholders that you're not going to use, you just make them hidden. There's lots of placeholders that are required in SharePoint 2013 master pages, and if you don't plan on using them, you still need to include them in your master page, but you just hide them. And then you can add whatever new placeholders you want into the new master page that you're building. And one of the first placeholders is placeholder additional page head. And so this is where basically it is a placeholder for the head element, the head HTML element on a page. And you can inject anything that you would normally put into the head. So most of the time it's going to be CSS or JavaScript files. Could even be meta tags. And then there's also in SharePoint there's a delegate control for programmatic insertion via control. So that would mean you could use a feature receiver, and when your feature is activated, it could dynamically change the control that's in the delegate control. So probably the most obvious placeholder is PlaceHolderMain. You can see in this screenshot here I've outlined the area where PlaceHolderMain is. This is the main area that you'll be doing most of your work in. This is the primary, the body content of the page. You're not going to want to put any elements that's important to the overall site's functionality in PlaceHolderMain. And pretty much you can always assume with PlaceHolderMain that every single content page is always going to override any contents that are in PlaceHolderMain. That's the place where your designers are going to put their content. Next we have the placeholder page title. And so all this is responsible for is just displaying the page title in the title bar. And I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's nice that we have all these hooks. And really that's what these placeholders are. They're just hooks. Just another hook that the SharePoint architecture is giving us. And so rather than having everything very rigid, we have it, if we want to change the title in the title bar, we could do it here using this placeholder. Okay, now the next one is the placeholder page title in title area. And the purpose of this is to allow a content page to display its title in the title area, just as the placeholder page title allows a content page to display a title in the browser's title bar. So in this case you can see in the image, in the screenshot here, I've outlined where that shows up. Typically, a place you'll see where this gets overwritten a lot is when you build application pages. You'll see the default application page in SharePoint. When you go to create a new application page, it'll override this for you and fill it out for you. Okay, next key placeholder is the PlaceHolderTopNavBar. And PlaceHolderTopNavBar, in this screenshot you can see I have it's basically just holding that top nav, that's the top link bar. That can be overridden if you wanted to. If you were building a page where you didn't want that navigation to be there, you could override that and and put whatever you wanted in there. Next one is the PlaceHolderLftNavBar. So that's the quick launch. And so if this is important because maybe you don't want the quick launch to show up. So what you could do is you could in one of your pages you could override the placeholder and set that to be not visible. You could also do it through CSS, but there's lots of different ways to do things in SharePoint, so that's one of the ways. You could use the PlaceHolderLftNavBar if you wanted to. So now we're going to look at creating a custom master page from a starter page and just show you what the process is like in Visual Studio. So I'm back in our Visual Studio solution now for this chapter, and we're going to look at doing a custom master page based off an existing master page. So what I've done is I've actually gone to startermasterpages.coplex.com and downloaded the latest starter, and then I actually renamed it. And so the product of that is I have a file here. Get rid of the contents. mycustomstarter.master, and then there's also, it has its own icon, fave icon, and then an image here. And so these have already been provisioned in the elements file. So I have and there's also a style sheet. Style sheet's very basic. There's not much to it. Just 2 styles in here. Tile row and just the custom width. And you can see I'm provisioning these style sheet, the image, and the fave icon into, it's all going into the master page gallery, but this one has a folder called starter branding. And then the page is mycustomstarter.master, and that's going in the root of the master page gallery. And take a look at the starter page here. You can see it's pretty minimum. There's really not a whole lot in here, just mostly all the content placeholders. You can see here's a whole section of hidden placeholders, just with the visible attribute set to false. And you can see this is created from the starter SharePoint 2013 master page from Randy Driscoll. So if we can compare this, let's just compare it to Seattle. You can see it's missing a lot of stuff. So like, for example, the suite bar, or some other noticeable areas would be like the developer dashboard, the breadcrumbs, menus. Here's some items for the quick launch navigation manager for the nodes. So you can see we don't have any of this stuff in our master page. It's a minimal master page. So let's go ahead and deploy this. And we'll make sure that the files get deployed properly. And then I didn't write any code in the feature receiver to make this the custom master page. But we can do that. So what I'm talking about is in this feature receiver, in the event receiver for the feature, when this gets deployed, it's still going to make my Seattle the system master page and my custom Seattle the custom master page, and that's okay. So what we'll just go in. I just want to see that the files got provisioned, and then we'll change it in the UI in site settings. So I'm going to go into site settings. I'm going to go to the master pages gallery, and I just want to make sure that it's here. and it is here. Here's my custom starter master, and then here's the folder that we provisioned, and then here's the 3 files: the style sheet, the image, and then the fav icon. And you can see we're still, go back to the home page here, we're still using the you can see this is my custom master page. That's the system master page that we created. Now, one thing that is noticeable about the this custom starter page is typically the, let's see if I can find it, the logo, the URL that it points to is typically just the current site URL. And a lot of times you don't want it to be that. You want it to go to the root site, the root URL of the site collection. So let me see if I can find where that is at. Here it is, right here. So you can see here I've changed it, the logo image URL, that's logo image URL, but the navigate URL is going to, it's using the site collection token. So that's going to get replaced with the URL to the root of the site collection. Now, this is the old one right here. I've just commented out, but the old one actually, it doesn't have that declared. Actually, I did change it to have it declared, but this is just using an SP link button instead of the SP simple site link. And so if we go, I have a subsite, so let's go to the site contents, and there's a subsite called test subsite. And if let's see, I'm in test subsite, and if I hover over here, notice how that's just taking me to back to the root of my current subsite. But a lot of times you may not want that. You may just want this to go back to the root of the whole entire site collection. So that we've changed that. So let's go back up to, let me just go ahead and close it, open it again. I'm going to go into site settings. I'm going to change the master page. So the custom master will be my custom starter. Actually, I want to change that again. I want to make sure I reset all the subsites to inherit that. So our subsite will be using the new master page as well. And now I can go to site contents. Well, first of all, this is still using the, you can notice here that's still using our system master page that we have designated, but this is a publishing page, so it's going to use the custom master URL. So when we go here, notice how that text on top got removed. This is using the custom starter page. And I'm going to go to site contents. Actually, notice also how the icon changed. So here's this SharePoint fav icon, and if I go to this page, that changes because we're using our new master page. Let me go to the site contents. Let's go to our test subsite. Now this is still a wiki page, so it's still using the system master page. And if I go, I do have a test page that was created in the pages library. So if I go here, this should be using the custom master URL because it's a publishing page. So this should use the inherited custom master URL from the root site. And in fact it is. Now one thing to check here is, remember, we wanted that logo, this logo in the upper left corner, to point to the root of the site collection. And notice that indeed it does point to the root site collection, so when I click on it, it takes me back to the root. So that was just kind of a quick little demo on how you can build your own custom master pages using a starter, and it's got all the placeholders you need in there. You can add new placeholders if you want. You can do pretty much whatever you want. It's the most flexible way of building master pages using Visual Studio and SharePoint 2013.